What's good, everybody? What's up, man? This is Stephen Claus II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy, you feel me? And I'm here with man, one of my good brothers, my line brother to be specific. I'll let him introduce himself, what he's doing now, and then we'll get into this follow-up. This is the third interview of the follow-up series. So if y'all don't know, Donovan has a video from about 3 years ago where we talked about Donald V boxing at the time and what he was doing then. And, we're going to follow up and see what he's up to now. But I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself again.
Okay, for sure. Definitely excited to be here. My name is Donovan Patterson. I'm coming at you with Love and War, the brand to help you find a love worth fighting for. So that's the tagline. Essentially what it is a relationship coaching company to help, like I said, to help people find a love worth fighting for. As far as my background, I came from boxing coaching. The follow-up here is a little bit different, but to be brief, I used to help people learn how to hurt each other. In high school, I was a boxer. I got to learn. I had great coaches. I had a really incredible experience. And then when I went to college, I got to take what I learned and the pieces of that experience and share it with others. Not to be competitive fighters, though I did get to train somebody for an actual bout, but to take the pieces of boxing, fitness, and empowerment to help improve people's lives. The way that it turned into Love and War is interesting. I don't want to just run through the whole thing off rip, but let me know how we want to take it.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. No, I'll definitely let you ease into it. But man, it's been 3 years. In those 3 years, from the standpoint of where you were then and where you are and what you're doing now, what's probably the biggest thing you feel like you've learned in those 3 years that's kind of either been the turning point or just made the biggest difference in who you are now and what you're doing versus who you were at that time?
Man, well, first, I can't let that slip. 3 years, 3 is my favorite number. I got to put it out there. I'm a little bit into numerology, but 3 is the number of the Trinity, beginning, and middle, and an end. It's a big number for transformation to me. But as far as in that time, you got to think about all the different pieces to it, because we went from a college student, somebody who is, this was after my transformation though. The beginning of college and the end of college was very, very different. But we went from somebody who at that point was pretty established more established on campus. I had the brand, I was teaching people boxing, I was a nutrition and fitness major, everything kind of lined up, but I made a switch. So from there until now, we went through graduation. I'm a person who, though I've moved around a lot, I was in the Midwest. So Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan. My brother was born in Chicago. I was born in St. Louis, and then I went back to school in Missouri. I'm from the Midwest. Right out of graduation, I moved to a whole different region of the country, to a whole different type of area in Florida. So if people haven't been to Florida, if you have not been to South Florida, understand when you get around Miami and further south, you're in a different country. You're like in a different country. So there's an adjustment there. There's an adjustment with the job. There's an adjustment in every single piece of it. To condense it down, really, I went through a process of I kind of lost who I was. And the journey to get back to it, not just for me as an individual, I was in a relationship and that required different things of me, that offered different opportunities for personal growth. But really, to be honest with you, I had the job, I had the money, I had the opportunity. If anyone's ever been to Key West, it's a tropical paradise. I, through my company, was able to go once a month to literally live in a lot of people's dreams. The money, the situation, the relationship, everything was good. But for a variety of reasons, I felt like I was in like one of the lower points in my life in a certain way. And the essence of Love and War is really in that. Because before the brand really came into itself as far as a love worth fighting for, it was to help people escape from paradise. because so many of us have ourselves in really good external situations that, yeah, we know other people should be really thankful for and appreciative for, but then that kind of makes the emotion a little bit heavier. Because we feel like, we're supposed to feel good, we're supposed to feel okay, we should be so thankful, but we're not okay. And a lot of people in our peer group, transitioning to work, everything, a lot of us are not okay.
Right.
And that journey involved a lot of love and a lot of war, because I had to open myself up to everything that I felt was wrong. I had to be honest with myself about what I wasn't doing, where I was actually at with my relationship to myself. And not just, this is the part that kills me, because a lot of people with self-transformation, we talk about, the fluffy stuff, like love yourself, be happy, like smile, beautiful, like all that stuff. Like it's fluffy, it sounds nice. But to go from a sport and a coaching area emphasis where I literally taught people how to hurt others, like self-defense is important, but like I seen blood, broken noses, bruised ribs, messed up hands. Like I seen all of those things. But the toughest thing anybody can ever literally do is battle those demons that you got inside of yourself. And it's a lot of people are not brave enough to do it. So that's a brief intro into Love and War.
I think seeing the growth from Dono V Boxing to Love and War has been amazing. Honestly, I think, especially considering that journey, and you just explained how your journey looks, but I feel like everybody has that journey of figuring out, really figuring out themselves, especially in that time frame of like, okay, you're leaving college and then you're figuring out what's next and what life looks like after you've had this certain way of life and structure for the last 4 years or whatever. So I think that's major. That was kind of the intro to Love and War. I guess take us deeper into the approach. So you gave us the story and you gave us how you came to want to do Love and War essentially, and why you feel like it's important. So what's the approach to the application of it? What do you really want people to get out of the concept of it? What are some of the principles you're trying to teach within it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking about a love worth fighting for, the reason that it's a relationship coaching company is because I had to think about what people want. What do people deeply want? And to different extents, whether the title that you are claiming that you strive for or not, relationships offer one of the greatest opportunities for self-improvement and self-growth. And they also offer a great opportunity for self-destruction, because nothing opens us up in the same ways. And whether that relationship be personal, professional, but specifically romantic and individual. We see the way that we conceptualize one of the most impactful areas of our life is there's a deficit for most people. And when I'm talking about that, it means like we see like how have we been evaluated in our lives, like as we've been matriculating through life, right? We get evaluated on our grades, we get evaluated on how much money we make, we get evaluated on like status and things like that. There's not a very supreme emphasis on like your relationship specifically to yourself, like your mental health, how you manage, how you are actually doing, the systems in place to actually continue to improve yourself. It's so deep, but we always see it as the surface of the iceberg is what we hear on in music and movies and all those different things. So as far as like the process with Love and War, the reason that it's a relationship coaching company is because at its essence, it's there to help people improve the relationship to themselves. Every relationship that you have will be drastically improved when you learn the systems and the habits and the drills, sounding like a gym coach again, but like the drills to actually apply self-love. And when you work on that relationship, it's easy to deploy in your romantic, professional, and other familial relationships as well. So
yeah, no, I think that's extremely important. I think the relationship with self is one that is typically and far too often overlooked and undervalued. I don't think people, like you said, take the time or appreciate the process of what that relationship with yourself looks like. And I don't think people understand that there are so many relationships that will either fail completely or that will be drastically worse than they need to be and than they should be, simply because you didn't take the time to fix the relationship with yourself. Because everything that is any other relationship that you have, in a lot of ways, it's a reflection of where you are, at least when you're considering the status of that relationship or how it looks. You mentioned and you jokingly said that you were sounding like a coach. What about a coach's mentality or a coach's personality even? What certain things have you seen that have been easy to kind of transition from coaching a sport to more so coaching with people with a different objective at hand? And then what's been some more of the difficult things?
Yeah. And what I had said was I was sounding more like a fitness coach, but that's actually the one of the more exciting aspects to what love and war is and what it represents to me. Because like I mentioned before, we don't conceptualize relationships or our relationships to ourselves for the full opportunity or really what's there. When you talk about what's been difficult or what's been more easy, it's like the system for love and war goes like this, and the situations might change, the people might change, but the flow at its core still goes like this. You got to understand that when you have to increase your awareness. You have to increase your awareness of where you're at, objectively and subjectively, where you're at, what you feel, because your emotions create your your thoughts create your emotions. The way you think about something creates the experience, the physiological feeling that you have in your body. Even if it's something that like you just saw it and boom, you feel happy, sad, mad, there's a thought pattern behind it. There's a thought pattern behind it. Now, when you increase your awareness, you understand that there's something that created that thought pattern. It's so deep because people don't understand, like with relationships. Do you understand what family you came into? Do you understand what habits, what you habitually or repetitively saw? Like you are ingrained to operate in a certain way. You are not your thoughts or your thinking or your actions. You are what you repeatedly do. And what you repeatedly do is what you are efficient at. And what you are efficient at is the easiest thing to do. So when you talk about changing a habit, changing a way that you are, changing something, it requires, like we know better than anybody else, it requires grit. Mm. And so to change something, you need to become aware, because that which you are aware of, you can control. That which you are unaware of controls you. So then become aware of your emotions and then the thought pattern behind it, so you can start to claim and decide what you want to think. It's not easy. It sounds easy, but it's not easy. It's the exact same as if I walked into a gym and saw somebody bench pressing 315 pounds. That's 3 plates on each side, right? I can't do that. I can't walk under that bench press and do it. But I know if I apply a system, if I dedicate myself, if I show up every day and execute on a plan, I can get closer. Mm-hmm. It's the same way with your habits and the things that are on you emotionally. But you got to increase that awareness, and there's a nuance to that a lot of people don't understand. So it goes, increase your awareness to influence your thoughts, to change your emotions, to change the actions, because your emotions influence the actions, to change the realities around you. That's the baseline system for love and war. The application into that question that you mentioned, how is it different from boxing coaching to transition here, is when people see fitness coaching, they know that. They assume that. Blah, 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 like pull right hand. It looks cool. It's sexy. It's dope. You see sweat. You see muscles. It's like, okay, I like that. If you saw a picture of me before when I was deeply sad and felt not in control of my life, you saw a picture of me now, my hair still looked good. My beard was still full, like everything. You can't see it. Right. So it's harder for people to get to, but that's what's more exciting about it for me, because it's deep like that.
No, that's what I think. I think those are amazing metaphors to explain that concept and explain the parallels. I think that the idea of it being things that you cannot see is vastly important, because I think when you're talking about human interaction, when you're talking about relationships, there's a lot that is not seen. And because it's not seen, we as a species are typically, we're not programmed to, one, initially have a desire to maybe figure it out since we can't see it. Because a lot of how we think is what we see. We don't think about what we can't see. And I feel like that it is a detriment, but at the same time, I think, like you said, it has to be a desire. There has to be a want to see more, to want to know more, to want to look past the surface. If that desire is there, that leaves room, like you said, to create a plan or some type of, a plan of attack or a plan of approach, so you can set that in motion and get closer to that. It just sucks because when I think if we're not looking for it, and if we only go off of what we see, it's kind of like we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we're limiting ourselves in that regard. And I don't think we realize the negative impact that has on all the relationships that we've mentioned before. So I completely agree. Do you feel like you miss the aspect of boxing or coaching boxing? Do you feel like what you're doing now, I would imagine based off what you said, that it feels like a natural evolution. It doesn't feel like you forced yourself to do this, but is there an aspect of you or a part of you that misses like doing things with boxing, seeing as that was like, actually your first love?
Yeah, I appreciate that question a lot because as the brand Love and War was coming into its own, what was difficult was love and war. So love was essentially supposed to at first be like the relationship side, and war was supposed to be the fitness or the boxing side. Because I wanted to incorporate it so bad, I just couldn't find a way to, one, sustainably incorporate it into the business model I wanted to create, and two, communicate it in a way where people wouldn't get so confused. Because like, oh, is he boxing coaching or is it life coaching, relationship coaching? It would be easy to kind of get a little muddy. And initially, I started to do some events and some social media stuff, and you could see that I was still figuring it out like that. But boxing, what it did for me in my life, the energy, the philosophies, all of those different things that it instilled in me are definitely going to be a part of the coaching model. And as I continue to put on more events, what I envision, what I'm excited to do in the future is retreats and events where we get to incorporate boxing or mid-work therapy. So there's one event that I'm planning to put on in South Florida in February called a Fight and Fuss. And so if you take the hour-long event, you take the first half of it, it's essentially kind of a fitness event, but what you're intentionally trying to work something out, It's like nothing is going to give you the same experience as throwing a punch, especially a punch that's not going to break your own stuff or at somebody's face for no reason. Like, it's a different type of release. It's a different type of energy that you can let out of your body. And so that opens you up to conversations in a unique way. I'm excited because, yes, I miss it because it is just different. I'm a person, I enjoy face-to-face interactions. I enjoy being able to see you like get a spark in your eye or see like you got something and help you get what you want. Boxing for me, even as Coach Donovan V on the University of Missouri's campus, was an opportunity to help people who didn't want to be boxers, but people who wanted to use boxing to improve their lives as a student, as a family member, or whatever. I'm taking it in a different way to Love and War, but as I get to scale up and do bigger events or retreats, it'll still be there. And I'm sure I'll still do a little bit of it on the side. And myself as an individual, I got to continue to box.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people face that decision, like you said, of wanting to make something work, wanting to incorporate something because it's just as much of a passion as what you're trying to create. But I think it's a very mature and it's a huge decision to solidify that you're not going to force it. Let me say that you're not going to force it to fit somewhere where it doesn't. I think that's a decision and a dilemma that I've faced with QUALLified multiple times in terms of its structure, its content. It's something I'm still facing to this day, just in terms of what can I control that can or cannot look muddy, and then what do I have to kind of just let take its own course and just hope that people are following so they realize how it makes sense and how it fits into everything that's going on. But it's a tough decision to make, and it's a tough process overall, because you have to use how other people see things as a gauge, like you have to. But at the same time, you also have to have this faith, I believe, that if you have a model, if you have a structure, if you have a way that you've laid everything out, you have to have faith that people who are paying attention to what you are doing just that and paying attention, so they see where things connect and they see the lineage of how things are happening. But again, it starts with somebody having to make that decision and not force it to be a part of it at the cost of it being confusing, at the cost of somebody not wanting to support or follow because it doesn't make sense, and that's something that you can actually control. So yeah, no, huge decisions, big decisions. I think decisions that come with trying to do things and start, brands and things of that nature and push campaigns the way that we are.
Real quick,
Yeah.
if I could add on to what you said, because that's very insightful for anybody out there who is striving to be an entrepreneur or striving to build something. We all go through this identity. It's a form of an identity crisis,
Yeah.
It's your kid. It's connected to who you are. You're trying to bring it out into the world, and you want it to be perceived in a certain way, or what have you. There's something you got to figure out there whenever you make something like that. And it was so important as a component to Love and War to really, yes, I'm a part of it, and I love to talk, I love to share things about my story, but the emphasis is so much about who I'm trying to serve. And I want that to be at the focal point. So I'm trying to help people improve their relationships and find the love worth fighting for. And once I keep that in mind, then the identity crisis, you still get like anxious. I still get a little anxious and stuff to post stuff or to share certain things. Like, is this me? Is this really how I'm feeling? But like, I'm trying to focus on others primarily.
For sure. Yeah, I think that is tough when what you do is focusing on others. I think it's one thing if something you're doing is like completely self-serving, or if you're trying to push yourself, or something that you're doing is completely different than when what you're trying to push focuses on other people. So you need to know how other people are perceiving that, because at that point I believe you can't just brush it off and say like, oh, I don't really care what anybody thinks, like, or I don't care how it's being perceived. Like, while an extent of that is true, because like, you're doing what you're doing and there will be people that don't get it or don't like it or whatever, you do have to be cognizant of that, because it is a product for others. So that product being successful, or that product being something that people even want to engage with or indulge in, is based on how people are perceiving it. So extremely important, extremely. Goals. I would imagine that obviously your goals look very different now, seeing as what you're doing as in a different direction. How would you say your goals differ, if at all? Because I could be wrong. How do they differ now as opposed to then? And then what are those goals now for yourself and for Love and War?
Sure. With Coach Donovan Patterson as a boxing coach, it was really organic, and it was very college. It was like, this is just something that I was doing. It kind of started to catch traction. People, like, I have an affinity for having people engage in combat. Like, a trip, wrestle. I could get people to wrestle. I could put gloves on people and have them box that wasn't planning on boxing. Like, it was just natural.
Right.
And I like, it happened, and then I was starting to acclimate as an entrepreneur or as a business person, like in the middle of it, because it was passion. I could have done it. I would have done it for free. And at the essence, that's still what I would do. I still want to help and improve people's lives. The reason that this was different is because from the beginning of its inception, it was like, okay, like I want to make something sustainable. I want to make something that can become something that obviously offers a lot of value to people's lives. But one, I'm in a different head frame from when I'm in college or about to graduate with a bachelor's degree. It's like, can I really make something and not just add all this value to people's lives, but have it be a sustainable business? And so that perspective is distinct. And for anybody out there who may be kind of interested in like the 16 personalities Myers-Briggs test, I'm an INFP. So that means like the emotional intelligence and everything is high. The business acumen is not as naturally there. I had to be very intentional about learning, applying, like being okay with the fact that some of the stuff isn't natural and getting a little bit better each and every step of the way.
For sure. Yeah, nah, I think it's important. I love being intentional. That's one of my goals for me personally this year. It's something I said in one of my Behind the Brand episodes. I don't feel like enough people are intentional about anything, to be honest, and not in a negative sense, but like there are so many people that don't intentionally learn, that don't intentionally challenge themselves to get this skill down, or don't intentionally challenge themselves to be a better boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, family member, whatever. Like there are a lot of things that are just done kind of on the fly or passively because we feel like we're supposed to be doing it, but we're not intentionally trying to get better at it. And I feel like there's a huge difference that people would be able to feel and really physically see if they were intentionally doing something as opposed to passively. So yeah, this final question, man. I know you're ready. I know you've been ready. Can't wait to hear the answer. But no, man, in this follow-up, you have kind of taken us through the journey that has led you from Donald v. Boxing, being a boxing and fitness coach, to now channeling that focus more so into being, I don't even want to label you or put you in the box of just being a life coach or relationship coach, but being in a position to really help people with both, to understand that awareness within themselves so they understand how that affects the relationships that they want to have. With your background in coaching in general, with your newfound passion for delivering this message to couples, and especially I feel like people of our generation, what do you say within your journey and within everything you've learned within that makes you qualified?
Man, been waiting on this day for a long time. What makes me qualified? Gotta call my mom after this. Well, I gotta emphasize this. With Love and War, it's obviously to help people find a love worth fighting for. And I didn't emphasize this enough during this conversation, but the group that has had the most opposition to that, I feel is our people. I feel in the Black community, there's been so much with Black relationships, with us and our identity to ourselves. What Love and War wants to do is embody the voices or the stories of us from the time of African American history. So Black history does not start with slavery. African American history. Do you understand that when we got off the boat, they masculinized the women, they feminized the men, they broke us apart. They made it incredibly difficult for us to have a household, to cultivate and build with each other. They incentivized us to be apart. Your love worth fighting for. We've all been, what makes me qualified is that I have this passion and this desire to help people, because we all been in some fights. We all done fought for some stuff where it's like, it really just broke us down. It really just tore us up. But what makes me qualified is I want to help people find that thing, that relationship that's worth the effort, that's worth the energy. That's like, I might be up an extra hour. I might have lost some sleep, but this is worth it. This is worth it because this is worth it for me, for the household I want to build, for my future kids, romantically, physically, financially. That's the emphasis of Love and War. That's what it means to find a love worth fighting for. And that's why I'm qualified.
Couldn't have said it better myself, brother. And I think you touched on everything, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for this follow-up. Everybody who's watching will have his socials at the bottom. He's not the biggest social person, but he'll interact with you, if you interact with him. So definitely follow him, follow Love and War, make sure you're tapped in with that. Make sure you understand everything that's going on with that, because it's needed. And it's a great step to figuring out how to increase your awareness.
Before we close out, I got to let the people know. I gotta let the people know. We don't talk a lot about love and war, helping people find a love worth fighting for. We dropped a couple gems, but I gotta give people an opportunity to do just that. Right?
Yeah. Right.
We got an event coming up on January 23rd, Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, virtual. That means it's international, free for anybody to come to help you find a love worth fighting for. Okay? Look, it's a sponsored event. It's a qualified event, if I do say so myself. We got you on the flyer, but we got not just myself, but we got two other experts in two other industries, in fitness and health and in finance, to help people boost their relationships, get the love the love that's worth fighting for. Like I mentioned before, I wouldn't want to miss it. We got $300 in giveaways. We got a free ebook just for registration. We got knowledge from those 3 different industries, man. I know you got to give me the certified qualified, but I think it's qualified.
Oh no, most definitely, man. Love and War's qualified. This event will most definitely be qualified. Man, I don't know. Everything you touch is gonna be qualified, brother. You already spoke that into existence, dog. So hey man. But no, y'all should definitely register for that event. Make sure you are in attendance. I don't think you're gonna want to miss it. I don't think you're gonna want to not be able to gain that knowledge and gain the insight that all 3 of them will have and will be given to you all. And yeah, man, make sure y'all do that. But yeah, I will talk to you whenever. But man, but until next time, until the next qualified interview, man, I'll see y'all. Peace.